YouTube page. In this video I'm going to show how I go about printing a color image from Adobe Lightroom. I've previously uploaded videos on black and white printing. The process is quite different in color. So we start in the library module, as you can see on the screen, and I've selected out this image from the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona to act as our test image for printing. So before we go into the print module, we're going to go back into the develop module, and that's where some important things are done before we actually get to the print module itself. So in the develop module, down here on this little taskbar, you can see a little button, soft proofing. Now if it isn't there, you can activate it by this drop down arrow here and put soft proofing. Activate that so it appears on the screen. So I'll get rid of some of this so we've got a bit more acreage on the screen. We don't need that. We do need this side here. So there we have our image, and it looks pretty nice. It's been processed to really show the various levels of brightness and color appropriately, and so we want to get a print that's going to look like that. But as everybody knows, generally a print will look much flatter than what we see on the bright screens. So Adobe has given us this a lovely feature, soft proofing, which tries to emulate the effect that we're going to get from a paper print. So first thing is to tick that, and as you see, it's opened up another little dialog box up here, and at the moment I've got simulate paper and ink activated. Sometimes that will come up, it'll not be activated, so we have to put in our paper profile. So you will have this for your printer, for the paper that you're using. In this case I'm using Brilliant Supreme Luster paper, and I've downloaded the ICC profile from the Brilliant website and have it installed. So we're going to use that. We're going to use perceptual intent. There's probably not a lot of difference between these when printing with an inkjet printer. So we'll use perceptual, which the little pop-up tells me preserves out of gamut detail but may change in gamut colours. So that's what we want to do, but you can test these out for yourself to see which one suits in your particular case. I'm going to be using an Epson P600 printer, but the process is much the same with any of the photographic printers. Now we can simulate paper and ink. This is an attempt on the screen to give us a representation of any color cast that there might be in the paper itself, and the more subdued effect that we get from the the paper print. So you'll see a change in the image. I hope you can see that on your screen. We've got quite a bright, vibrant image there. When we put on the simulation, it flattens it down a bit. So we might want to actually do something then to improve the print and try and recapture some of that vibrancy that we've got in the digital image. Now that's why we're in the develop module. So we have all the develop tools at our disposal here. Here's the basic menu, and generally the things that you will want to do are maybe change the contrast or clarity, maybe increase the brightness a little bit. I think those are mainly any adjustments that you need to make should be fairly minimal. You don't want to be going way overboard with this, but the minute you start to adjust a one of these controls, you will find that you will be prompted to create a proof copy. Now let's say we want to change the exposure, so we want to brighten this up, so we're going to hit the mid-ranges, and I'm going to do it using the histogram. I'm going to drag that across, and we've brightened that up. and immediately when I let go of the button, I'm getting a message here from Lightroom. What does it want me to do? Because I've started to alter an image that I've already stored, and it knows I'm using the soft proofing. So what we do here then is create a proof copy, or we can make the actual file that we're working on, or the image that we're working on, these manipulations, add them to that file. So we can create a proof copy. I usually do that because it's a virtual copy. It's taking up very little space at all. A virtual copy, as you know, is it's based on the underlying image with non-destructive editing. So we create a proof copy, and what it does is gives the copy a name with the paper and the intent on it, so that we know that this virtual copy now is for printing. And that's a very helpful thing. I think it's a useful thing to do. And what we've done is we've left our original unchanged. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to compare this unchanged original with a soft proofed virtual copy. And that's what we're going to try and do. So we've already, with this one, boosted the brightness. Perhaps we want to bring the shadows up as well, and I'm going to use the histogram for most of this. So we'll bring the shadows up a bit, bring the midtones up a bit more, try and keep the contrast, and be wary of blowing out those highlights. So if we then compare this soft proofed image back then with our original, we'll see that actually on the screen it is much brighter. It has more contrast, and that's then going to be slightly muted when it comes to the actual print. So that is a tool that you can use to make sure, or to try to mitigate against the flattening effect that the paper print will have when compared to the vibrant screen. So you can do that. See where you go with that, and once you've got that and you're happy with that, it's this proof copy that we're then going to take into the print module. So we can do that. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take do an A3 print, and we can do that either, you will have some presets, but you can create your own presets. Take the page setup, there's the printer, that's what we're going to use. And our A3 paper, and we're in portrait mode, and we can OK that. Also on this page we can go into the printer driver, and this is where we want to change a few things. Now, as you can see, this printer preview, or the printer driver at the moment is set up for mono. So I have picked up a mono profile. That is not a problem. By media type, this will depend on your paper that you're using. You have to look up and find out what they tell you to use, photo paper, and whether you need to use glossy or semi-gloss. In this case, for the paper we're going to use, semi-gloss is the one. We're using a photo black ink, which is a good thing, but we do not want black and white photo. We want a color photo, so click on color, and then it gives us various options. So quality options, we want to go with quality, and what we want to do is we want to take off color adjustment in the printer driver, because we're going to manage the color from the software. We're going to use color management through Adobe Lightroom, which is the same color management as you will find in Photoshop. We're using sheet paper, we're using A3, we're not messing with borderless. And the other thing in your printer setup, which is quite useful because it allows you to spot any errors you've made before you commit to putting ink on paper and squandering the precious, the most expensive fluid in the world. So you get another chance just to see that everything is okay. Quality settings on the Epson, you can see over here that this is giving us super photo quality, and I find that for most purposes this works okay for for what I want. So there we have that. We can click OK there, and we click OK there. Now we've set that up, so actually what I can do is I can save this as a preset. But before I do that, I'm going to make a few other changes within the Lightroom software. So the first thing here is we've got single image, A3, and at the moment that image size is set as 33 by 22. So that's a 3:2 ratio image. That's the same ratio as you're getting off your sensor. So generally the image should fairly well fit that. I've trimmed that image in just a little bit to get the center point absolutely accurate. I was doing these shots handheld. There was no using a tripod in the cathedral. So a little bit of zoom, and that isn't going to really interfere, so I can fill that out. So I'm going to get an image of 33 centimeters by 22 centimeters, and I have set the margins not at the maximum. I've set them at half a centimeter. That's just something I do. The margins don't really matter. That cell is going to be centered to the page no matter what. So but I like to set those at an even so that the margin is the same all the way around. The printer will tolerate a wider margin at or a narrower margin sometimes at one side or another, at the top, at the bottom, and you'll find that actually the default for these is that they're slightly varied. I prefer to have them all the same, and usually then pick whatever the maximum size on any one of them is and give them all that value. So I like to put a little stroke border around my images. It doesn't need to be very big. I find 0.6 point works quite nicely. Just puts a nice little sharp black edge around the images, because when I mount these, I like to actually leave half a centimeter. I make them mount half a centimeter all round, bigger than the image. I don't like the mount coming directly onto the image. I like to have the image neatly within the mount with half a centimeter round, and then that nice little black line around the actual image just keeps it nice and clean. So you can have that or not. It's a matter of taste, what you want to do. You can zoom to fill if you need to or not, depending on what way you're doing it. The thing about this is that it's very, very easy then to print images for pre-cut mounts. This is something that not everybody cuts their own mounts. It's difficult to get them done ad hoc. So it's nice to have a series of mounts, and actually getting mounts with an aperture cut at a 3:2 ratio is going to fit your frame size. If you tend to crop your images, if you like square images, you can get some square mounts. I mean, you can create a square crop. But for this purpose, we're doing this size 33 by 22 will do. Doesn't matter. It's whatever you need. And we've got the guides showing here. That's nice to have. You don't really need it, but we've got them on there. And then other things, you can use an identity plate, put your name on the image, override color, makes it black, move it down. I'm going to have a little space at the bottom. As I say, I leave half a centimeter. I can put my name below the image if I want to. If you're printing this for competition, of course you don't want your name on it. But if you're printing it to sell, if you're lucky enough to sell your work, well then there you go. You can put your name down there, and that will be in that little area outside the image, but within the frame of the mount. We don't really need to do much more here. The next bit, an important bit then, is the printer. We don't want to be printing in draft mode. Now this is something that you will find is set by default to 240 points per inch. I have found by experience that letting the software resize the image brings in artifact, and I find that the best quality prints I get is when that is turned off, and basically the software and the printer driver talk to each other and they sort it out, and that's what works best. This is a video of what I do, and this is what I do. If you want to do something different, feel free, but this is the way I print. and it works out okay for me. I leave print sharpening at standard. I've already sharpened the image within the software to the desired level, and then the media type, there's really only two choices here, whether you're using matte paper or other photo paper, glossy or luster or whatever, and so glossy is what we're using. And then at this point, this is where we diverge. We want to pick up an ICC profile for our printer and paper, and if you've used it before, if you've it set up, it will appear in the list here. This is the only one I've set up at the moment on this, but there are others here, and you know, there's my Canon printer, which is really an office printer. I've some other papers there that I can use. There's the drivers that come with the printer. When you install the printer driver, you'll get all these drivers for your printer, and you can install new ICC profiles for any paper that you use. That's Ilford Galleria. There's the Canon papers, the Brilliance papers, and I should have some papers here. Yes, these are Canson paper ICC profiles. I have to say the Canson paper is really excellent, but I have a stock of brilliant paper to use up, so that's what we'll use. So there is, then we've got manage my printer. We don't need to add any print adjustments. We have set our intent that we're using. Oh no, we haven't chosen that. Right. We decided we were using perceptual. We've got that. We've got our paper profile in there, and that's us ready to go. Now, you remember when we did the page setup, we hit print preview, and that's a very useful thing to do. And whether we hit printer or print preview, we will get that, or printer or print, we will get the print preview pop-up box. So that's another way just of making sure that you haven't made any mistakes before you print. So we're ready with the right paper, we've got the right profile, everything's set up, we're printing at the right size, and if we go into printer, it will bring up that printer dialog that we've done before, and if you're a belt and braces person, you can just check that everything's as you want it. We can cancel out of that. If we hit go, it will start to the print process. Oh, it's telling me my printer's not on. So let's do that. And up will come then our print preview. Now the colours look bizarre in this. Don't worry about that. That's just a crude representation of what we're going to be printing. So we're ready to print, and if you're happy then that you've set everything here and everything's good to go and you're ready to commit precious expensive ink to expensive paper, hit print and off it will go. I'm not going to do that at the moment. I don't want to print this image just at the moment. That is it. That's basically all you need to know about printing in colour. And if you've calibrated your monitor, and if you've got the manufacturer's profile for your printer and paper, and you're using the manufacturer's ink, everything should be perfect, and you should get a perfect print, or as near as you're going to get, because your print is never going to look the same as the screen. It's never going to be as bright. It's never going to be as vibrant. You can try and get it close to there from what we're using that soft proofing tool. Do you want to print the document? No. Soft proofing tool is really, really handy. So there you have it. Color printing in Lightroom. The one other thing that you might want to do, if I like that, is add that template. So this is an A3 color, and it was 33 by 22 centimeters, and it's going into my P600 folder, and I can create that, and there it is to be used again. If you change the paper, that is the thing to remember. If you start using a different paper, you bring it up here, and You can actually right click in that and update. If you've changed anything, update the profile for whatever paper it is that you happen to use by default. Most people tend to use a particular paper and generally stick with that, unless you're doing a lot of printing on different papers. But you know, you can create then a folder for different papers. It's very simple to create another folder and do that. So there you have it, color printing in Lightroom.